Developer Insights Season 21 Mid-Season Weapon Tuning. All right, this is brought to you today, Thursday, July 6th, in the Lord year of 2023 by the Destiny dev team. Hello, everyone. Mercury's here with the Mid-Season 21 Weapons Tuning Preview. This is going to be a smaller mid-season balance pass than usual, in large part due to the substantial changes that are coming in Season 22. So they already forecasted this before, but it's good that he's bringing clarification, because I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to read this and be like, oh, that's it? That's there's so many. No, guys. Season 22 is when all the major updates are coming. This is just a brief tuning where we are today. So, gear down, big shifters. We'll talk more about those later, but for now, we wanted to make sure we addressed some outliers on both ends of the spectrum. Let's get to it. And by the way, if you don't know who Mercules is, a player, great content creator, ended up joining Bungie just because of his insight and his expertise. If you ever read or listened to any of his commentary, he's been on social media and with his finger on the Destiny pulse forever. Awesome person, just very chill, down to earth. So big ups to Mercules for joining Bungie and delivering his passion into the game. Weapon archetypes. Pulse rifles. In general, we feel pulse rifles are in a good place, but pulses with low base aim assist stat values, like the high impact subfamily, feel too forgiving of near misses. We've reduced the size of the auto aim cone at 0 stat, which will noticeably affect pulses with stat values on the lower end of the scale, with reduced effect as the stat value increases. All right. In general, reduced auto aim angle at 0 aim assist stat by 10%. For bows, lightweight bows have been one of the least used and least effective weapon subfamilies in the game for a long time, and a lot of the feedback around them centered on how much worse they feel than precision bows at anything outside of close range. To address this, we've substantially increased the range at which they can deal full damage, and we've improved their accuracy a small bit as well. We also have some changes coming to all bows in Season 22, which should improve both how they are affected by reload perks and how well their shots register at longer ranges. Bows definitely need some love. Bows are strong, but only a specific archetype of them, specifically the precision bows. Really outside of the exotics, I'm not using bows on the PvE side. But a lot of what these changes and updates are going to address are going to be PvP oriented. So just FYI there. Going on, lightweight bows, increased fixed damage fall off, start distance from 15 to 25 meters. That's huge. Increased fixed damage fall off and distance from 20 to 45 meters. Increased final accuracy by 10%. Submachine guns. We heard a lot of feedback that the new dynamic reticle, while displaying interesting information, was far too cluttered and made it difficult to use the weapon in combat. We made a second pass over the reticle aimed at reducing both the thickness of the lines and their opacity, which minimizes the clutter when ADS, while retaining the ability to show you the effect perks or other actions have on your weapon's accuracy and aim assist. In general, made improvements to Shayura's Wrath ADS dynamic reticle, right? So submachine guns, specifically your Shayura Wrath mains, you're going to see an improvement here. Shotguns. Lightweight shotguns have fallen behind of their precision and aggressive counterparts in terms of effectiveness, in large part due to the outermost pellets being spaced so far apart that it can be difficult to land the entire spread outside of point blank range. To address this, we have reduced their spread angle to constrain the pattern a bit more, which should move them closer to the other top shotgun options for PvP. lightweight shotguns reduce the spread angle of the outer horizontal pellets by 15%. Listen, guys, I'm not a PvP main. I play enough. I like the lightweights for just the mobility, in like speed value of them. They feel good. Obviously, they have higher handling, but you can get the same, if not better, benefits in the precision and aggressives. I don't necessarily see this like pushing them over the top. They'll become meta. I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. All right, again, this is pretty short. Exotic weapons, Graviton Lance. Everyone loves G-Lance. Well, it's nice to see that Graviton Lance has been returned to glory after a long hiatus. At its current strength, the gun is too easy to use for how rewarding it can be, and the cosmology explosion pushes it too close to primary ammo Cloud Strike for comfort. Again, I really haven't been playing a lot of PvP, but I hear all the belly aching on top of everything else. Again, anything that they do, fingers crossed, they can balance both sandboxes separately. Just fix the fucking issue for PvP in the Crucible and just leave it alone. If anything, give it a fucking buff in PvE, because the Cloud Strike power fantasy ain't fucking happening while you're in a patrol zone in the EDZ, or at least trying to play like a Legend Nightfall. All right, FYI. At the same time, it lags far behind Revision Zero's heavy burst mode in PvE damage, and that just didn't seem fair. Yeah, you're fucking right, dude, because what you did to Revision Zero, it's the fucking gun is like in God mode now in PvE. Like, if you're not using Revision Zero, like whatever you're using for exotics, or it's specifically in the kinetic slot, put on Revision Zero, use the gun. The gun is overpowered right now. So we've given it a substantial buff to its PvE damage. Thank you very much. This is why Mercules is a good guy. He's got the, it's got the swagger. He's got the what's up. While at the same time reducing the damage the cosmology explosion does to Guardians and removing the extra aim assist that was granted by the catalyst. We'll keep an eye on Gravlance moving forward to see if it requires any further tuning, or whether this helps it settle into a healthy spot in the meta. Increased PvE damage by 67%. Shut the front door. Remove the extra aim assist provided by the catalyst. Reduce the damage dealt by the cosmology explosion by 40% against players. Damage in PvE unchanged. This is what I like to see. And I think this is what the Destiny community likes to see. Like, well thought out, separate, balanced patches. There's an issue in the Crucible. Let's address the issue in the Crucible without fucking over the experience on the PvE side. Thank you, and again, thank you. No time to explain. Love the weapon in PvP, by the way. I don't use it as much in PvE, although the fucking gun is really good in PvE. I think it's very much slept upon. No Time to Explain has been somewhat surpassed in effectiveness by the returning champion Graviton Lance, but given we are bringing Graviton Lance down a bit, we wanted to make sure that the No Time to Explain couldn't immediately reclaim the pulse rifle throne too easily. Reduced range stat by 10. I guess so. But No Time to Explain is definitely going to replace it. So, not to call myself a pragmatic visionary, but they're going to nerf No Time to Explain again. Just FYI, there will be a hotfix. Fighting Lion. Fix the bug with the perk application that was preventing Fighting Lion from granting the benefits of its catalyst. Fix the issue where the Chimera perk on the catalyst wasn't applying the buffs to kinetic and power slot weapons. Okay, so now the fucking gun is going to be even more overpowered for those with the niche skill set to use it, right? Like, if you're if you're a PvP main, and more specifically like a grenade launcher main, and you use the Fighting Lion, like, you're immediately like cracked S tier status, because like what if you can get this gun to synergize with everything, you're on. Like, just Google, YouTube, whatever clips of these players. I can't recall on top of my head, but I've seen plenty of clips. Cammy Cakes is one, right? They fucking slay with this weapon, right? And definitely check out their content, because I remember watching one video by Cam, like he breaks down what he does, and it's like very simple. It's just like anything in the game or anything in life for that matter. Practice makes perfect. Just be patient, and then you will develop the skill set. I'm not saying that you'll develop the skill set that Cammy has, right? That's a whole nother level and whole nother conversation, but you'll be able to get proficient enough to see how it synergizes and how truly effective it can be with a trained hand. So, going on to perks. Gut Shot Straight. When we initially made Slick Draw and Gut Shot, we wanted to make sure we weren't giving out substantial positive effects that had almost constant uptime for free. And we learned a little, and we leaned a little too hard on their penalties in a way that made them often feel more like a punishment than a worthwhile trade-off. As such, we've substantially reduced the penalties on each perk. And in playtest, they feel significantly better to use than they did before. Reduced auto-aim penalty by almost 38% for Gut Shot. Slick Draw, reduced auto-aim penalty by 33%. Target Lock. Target Lock has had its time in the sun, but the ability to get such a large amount of damage with relatively minimal effort for accurate players has made this perk an overwhelmingly obvious choice in whatever slot it rolls for PvP. As such, we have reduced the maximum damage it can grant in PvP, while leaving it unchanged in PvE. All right, thank God, man. Again, thanks for the separate balancing. It's like, it's not that hard, man. You know what I mean? And it's just, there's a problem in the Crucible, fix the problem in the Crucible, leave PvE alone. There's something going on in PvE that's making things, that's making the easier content that much more easier. Let's fix it in PvE. Oh, but wait a second. This will have a negative effect in the Crucible. Let's not change. Let's balance it separately. It's fucking common sense, man. And I'm glad to see more and more of this. It's more of another reason, again, let's applaud for, not to like fucking lambast and bend Bungie over for like all their gaffes or whatever you want to criticize them for. Like, this is like directly like what the community wants as far as weapon balancing, right? Separate balancing in both the PvE and PvP sandbox. So thanks, Bungie. The future, El Futuro. In season 22, we have a substantial shakeup coming to the weapon sandbox in the form of zoom. All I want to do is zoom, a zoom, zoom, and a boom, boom. We will have more details to share closer to release, but we want to briefly touch on what's going to happen at a higher level. The initial changes are going to enforce something we're calling range compression, with two main goals: reduce the variance between the optimal engagement ranges of our mid-range weapons, auto rifles, pulse rifles, and hand cannons. And number two, slightly reduce the average engagement range in Crucible by pulling the maximum damage fall-off distances of many weapon types. Okay. To do this, the highest achievable damage fall-off range on almost all weapon types will be reduced to some extent. All right, let's read that one more time. The highest achievable damage fall-off range on almost all weapon types will be reduced to some extent, with certain weapon types being reduced more than others, and then, in many cases, the lower edge of their damage fall-off ranges will be coming up. Below, you will find a table with the current damage fall-off stat distances with and without rangefinder. That's right, their rangefinder is getting completely changed for all primary weapons, and then their values in Season 22 with the new changes. We do not expect these values to be final, but we wanted to start the mid-range weapons on a more even footing than they are in the live game. Keep in mind, even with their damage fall-off start values being similar, weapons will perform differently once their damage fall off begins, as they currently do in the live game. Rifle style weapons will experience fall off more gradually, while handheld ones will experience it more quickly, as the differences should be much less extreme. In addition, we have also hand-tuned a small list of exotics and all special weapons with the intention of keeping them near where they are in the live game, as opposed to allowing them to receive substantial buffs or nerfs with those overarching changes. But we'll share more on that later. Okay. Listen, I'm not going to go down this whole fucking chart and read every column. Like, I'm not going to do that. You guys can go to the website and check it out yourselves. But like, Mercules is he's very much a stat guy, right? So there's for those of you for those statisticians out there and you fucking number nerds, all right? Boom, here's all the information. ADS damage, fall off start distances, 0 to 100 range stat. Okay. Sidearms, SMGs, auto rifles. There's an asterisk. We'll find out what that is. Hand cannons, pulse rifles, aggressive hand cannons, lightweight bows, precision bows, scout rifles. Note, auto rifles have the widest variance in available zoom values in the current live game, between 16 and 20 base. For the purposes of the above chart, 16 zoom was used as its base value since it is the most prevalent, but 20 zoom ARs were reaching 41.5 meters at 100 range. Okay. So you can see old base zoom, old base plus rangefinder, new base ADS modifier. Okay. I really want it for you statisticians, PvP mains out there. I really want to get your thoughts in the comments below. What's your interpretation of these changes, of these charts? I mean, it's empirical, so the data doesn't lie, but just what are your thoughts on how the experience is going to feel? Will it be better? Will it be worse? And why? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, guys. But what about, well, other things to look forward to in Season 22? Hand cannons will be receiving several buffs aimed at improving their usefulness in PvE. I'll tell you what. Remember the days when you used to be a hand cannon main in PvE? Like, that used to be me, right? That ain't the case anymore, right? Because there's just more effective options out there, including a base reload speed increase and damage increases to minor and major enemies. This is much needed, right? It'll make it more viable. It'll make it an option. But specifically, the reload speed, the one thing that has turned me off from hand cannon, it's not just their effectiveness, because there's better options out there, like I said, but like the reload speed. There's nothing worse than like having to reload and be like, doo-doo-doo, you know, and you're watching it and the animation is fucking slow on top of it. Like, I can't deal with it. You know what I mean? So, you know, thankfully that they're, you know, listening to feedback, and they're seeing it themselves internally. And then this will happen next season. So very cool. Sword Guard is getting a substantial rework. That would be good, because the one thing about using swords in Destiny is like, there's only one way to use a fucking sword, right? And that's basically like button spamming, right, to do DPS. Now, in regards to like the heavy attack cooldown, like, you'll know it'll be like X amount of swings, you know, it'll be like heavy attack, light, whatever, to depending upon how fast, you know, how effective the cooldown is. Heavy attack again, light, heavy attack, etc. So that's basically, there's only one fucking way to use swords, and that's the most effective way, right? But like guarding and shit and like taking advantage of the perks, I mean, it would have the most impact when you like solo play, right? Like, guarding doesn't necessarily do anything to like buff the fire team around you, and if it did, it'd probably be a small radius. You'd have to like pack in with each other, right? But like in endgame content, you're not getting CQ, man, right? And if you do get CQ, like you need to get in there and like pre-nade to like weaken, and then you start doing your DPS. And if you get hit with damage, you know, you're running scared back to the hallway, regrouping, and then rinse and repeat. With guarding, that could change it. I don't know exactly what they could do. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. But like, I think there would have to be like a residual effect after guarding. Like maybe like gives you like a brief overshield. I'm not saying give you like an invincibility frame, you know, like I'm not saying it should give you something like that OP, but it's just like in endgame content, especially with like the stomping mechanics of a lot of bosses, it's tough to get CQ, much less with swords. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly they mean by sword guard is getting a substantial rework. Now, from a distance, guarding with the sword, blocking projectiles, I could see being more viable. But for like CQ combat, you know, we'll see. Number 3, tuning to a handful of exotics, including a balance pass for La Monarch and some big buffs to Touch of Malice. Changes to weapon perks, including buffs to Bipod, Envious Assassin, and Over Under. All right, all that shit needs a fucking rework, man. I don't use any of that stuff. Although Envious Assassin, no, I don't use any of them. But what about second balance pass? All right, and this concludes. And again, thanks to everyone for hanging out with me as we give this a read. I hope it's information that you find informative, as well as of my enjoyable delivery. You know, let me know your thoughts on everything. But he concludes, what about second balance pass? Season 23 work is in full swing here on the weapons team, which means a lot of things are still in flux. We do know for sure that glaives and yes, the class exotics too, will be getting some substantial tuning. Thank you. And we're excited to share details on that as we get further along. For now, we can let you know that they're looking at ways to make them feel better to use without making them annoying to play against. And we're experimenting with things like reducing the delay after firing before you can melee, improving the base projectile speed, and altering how shield energy is granted. If you're a glaive aficionado, we'd be interested to know how those changes strike you. Maybe no pun intended there. And even if you aren't, we'd still like to hear from you. Okay. Probably should have said thanks to you at the end with his whatever, but I'm going to say thank you for Mercules. And as always, be safe, stay vigilant, and may the light protect us all. Peace out, guys. Thank you for watching. Likes and shares are very much appreciated. And subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. Peace.